I do bawatlam dirus a rish an hOspidéal I grílar na Gaillimhe. Ach I do spara bawatlam cúpla focail raw ile cowra hort than major Taoiseach and Seachta Kenny. The traffic congestion in Galway has been allowed to develop as a crisis in the interest of a lobby group. And the best way and one of the most effective ways to deal with that is to put in a light rail system, park and ride, which has never been rolled out, even though it was in the development plan 20 years ago, plus a comprehensive school service. And when you gave the history lesson on the judicial review, you forgot to mention that the reason the decision was quashed because the Board Pleanála had failed to take in what their duties under the climate change. So that's very important. So I'll use my other 2 minutes now in relation to the hospital in Galway. And it's very good that you're there, Taoiseach, because you were there back in 2017 as well in relation to the hospital. And I'm shocked to say that the pressure on that hospital remains the same, notwithstanding the glowing reports for the staff. So we have HEQA, and I'll stick to HEQA. And I know that Minister Naughton is telling you about the latest progress of Merlin Park, and I welcome that. But let's deal with what I'm telling you about a regional hospital that deals with over 1 million people in a population from Donegal down to Galway. And so the latest HEQA reports tells us that there were 29 patients awaiting an inpatient bed. 29 people. They used the word boarded out. A year ago they did a report and they told us it was grossly overcrowded. This year it's worse. So I don't know what language is left if it was grossly overcrowded last year. And in addition, we now have 31 patients in hospital who are ready to go out, but there are no beds in any step-down facilities or in any nursing homes. That's the regional hospital in Galway. In addition to that, when they looked at 3 wards, one of the wards, St Finbarr's, was grossly understaffed. And so they looked at different themes, and these are extremely important: infection prevention and control, medication safety, transitions of care not being complied with, because I've given you the 29 patients waiting to get out, actually 31. And then what's not recorded is the impact of care not given, notwithstanding the great efforts of the staff. Can you imagine if we recorded the impact of people on trolleys? We know from Dr. Hickey, ad nauseum, he's telling us that there are at least 350 premature deaths every single year because of the time directly related to the time spent on trolleys. So back in 17, when I was here as a newly elected TD and you were the Minister of Health at the time, you answered me in detail and you told me about an options appraisal. You told me it'd be published in 2018. That options appraisal was duly published. They strongly recommended a brand new hospital, not an elective hospital, which I welcome, but they welcomed a brand new hospital, and the elective hospital was to be part of that. And then I have a letter, which I might just use up the last few seconds, oncology, a waiting list. Can you imagine of 7 weeks for treatment for a patient for chemo and radiotherapy, 7 weeks, when the recommended waiting time is 14 days at most. So if you could avoid telling me about the progress in Merlin Park, which I welcome on record, and deal with the situation at the hospital, the lack of staff, the delayed discharge, and the awful pressure on staff, not to mention patients.
So look, thanks very much, Deputy Connolly. In the interest of time, I'll take your comments in relation to the road and indeed their accuracy, and it's important that all of those processes are of course followed. Specifically in relation to Galway University Hospital, I mean, the first thing I do want to do is welcome the fact that HIQA do carry out inspection reports and do publish them and do shine a light on areas where we do need to continue to try and make progress. And I think HIQA holding our feet to the fire is a good thing in terms of learning the lessons of the past in relation to health service in Ireland, and the inspection and reporting function exercised by HIQA is an important tool as well. And I know the Minister is very committed, as are the HSE, to engaging directly with the hospital group and with University Hospital Galway in relation to the latest HIQA report. I don't wish to frustrate you in some of my answer. You said don't talk about this, don't talk about that, and I understand the point, but it is somewhat of a jigsaw, because actually the investments that we're making in terms of trying to develop services in Merlin Park and decouple certain services that are, let's call it, non-emergency or non-acute from others, is an important part of increasing capacity and improving patient flow in the hospital. Now, you asked directly about staffing. Staffing at the hospital has grown by 751. there was so let me give you a figure. There were 3,787 staff in the hospital in 2020, and there's now 4,538. So the staffing has grown in Galway University Hospital by 20%. There's 121 more nurses and midwives. There's 46 more medical staff as well. The budget has also grown for that hospital. In 2020, Galway University Hospital had a budget of 398 million. The budget's now 496 million, so a 25% increase. And bed numbers have grown too. There's 30 new beds have been opened at Galway University Hospital, meaning bed numbers have risen from 684 in 2020 to 714 in 2024. And under our hospital bed expansion plan, there's a total of 247 new and replacement beds due to be delivered to University Hospital Galway out to 2031. And this includes 198 of those beds that need to be delivered between now and 2028. So I do have to say, staff numbers have grown. The budget has increased, bed numbers have grown, and bed numbers are due to grow much further. And as you rightly say, and I'll just mention it in passing, there was the opening of the cystic fibrosis unit and the outpatient department at Merlin Park only last week. And the importance of that, apart from the incredible care for cystic fibrosis patients, is it will enable the transfer of outpatient services to Merlin Park, and that does allow the hospital to progress the planned work on the new ED as well. We've seen a new radiation oncology facility in the lifetime of this government, and a new cardiothoracic ward as well, and the opening of the temporary ED as well. Crucially, and you referenced my time in the Department of Health, one of the things we were talking about then was the delivery of the elective hospital. And at Merlin Park, the elective hospital is now being planned. The design brief is currently being completed, and crucially, it's due to receive patients by 2027. I accept, and I know this when I go to Galway, I accept there's a lot more to do with the hospital, but I do think we have a clear plan now in terms of the development of services between the current site and the Merlin Park site.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Conley.
I'll try and deal with the actual reality on the ground. And so here we are. I want to highlight that due to severe staff shortages and lack of property facilities, there is now a 7-week waiting list to start chemotherapy in University Hospital Galway. There are now 31 patients in the regional hospital Galway with nowhere to go, while beds out in Carrow and on the Aran Islands are empty, and there's a waiting list for patients to go in there, but they're not opened. There are 29 patients awaiting an inpatient bed as we speak. There are 43 people on trolleys today. And you quote figures to me in a republic where we should have a public health system for all. I welcome any progress that's made. No progress has been made following the options appraisal, which was to build a brand new hospital. Because the government didn't respond, they went for a lesser option and a jigsaw as you with no overall vision. We have St Finbarr's orthopaedic ward with 5 staff missing, nursing care and assistants. We have an accident and emergency that has no planning permission, and in the meantime, in desperation, they put up a temporary one for 16 million. There's a whole new block to go up. It's nowhere to be seen. Deputy Minister O'Donoghue was there beside you when we talked about changing the system to make it easier, to allow these steps to be much easier. 2 former Taoiseach have told us that the accident and emergency in Galway is not fit for purpose. I and other colleagues have stood up here and talked about step 1, 2, 3 and 4, while you told us you were changing the process. In the meantime, the public hospital in Galway is absolutely under the most appalling pressure due to lack of staff, lack of facilities, and no dignity, no privacy. Thank you, Concur.
Thanks very much, Deputy Connolly. Firstly, specifically in relation to cancer care, I think there is an important issue to acknowledge, and I want to acknowledge at the record of the Dáil in relation to clinical specialist radiation therapists and radiation therapy posts in the hospital that are currently vacant. I think there's around 25% of vacancies, and I want to be absolutely crystal clear. Those posts are funded, and there's 2 open recruitment campaigns in relation to that, and I hope and expect to see progress on that because I know how important that is. In relation to the options appraisal, we have made a policy decision, and it's a policy decision very much in line with Sláinte Care, which is to decouple what they call emergency care from elective care. I sometimes think those words, we lose people with them because what does that mean? But coupling people who need to go into our hospital in emergency from the people who need planned hospital procedures. That work is now underway. I'm not standing here suggesting that everything in relation to the health service in Galway is as it needs to be, but I am standing here saying with genuine belief and facts that in the lifetime of this government there are more nurses and more doctors working in the hospital. Staff numbers have grown, the budget's increased, trolley numbers are down, there are more beds and there are much more to come. They're down 2%.